Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. For those of you who are returning, welcome back. If you are new here, welcome. I am S. Maxine Fisher. I'm an author, a case manager for people with autism and intellectual disabilities, and I love to knit and crochet. I like to create pride-themed items and rainbow colors and pride flags to help you showcase what makes you uniquely you, and I sell them on Etsy, link in the description. I'm also a parent to a beautiful little boy who is now 5 months as of making this video. Today is going to be another crochet with me video, so it's going to be a little bit of a longer video. I want to talk about some topics that I mentioned in a previous video about being out at work and what it was like for me to not be out at work. So if you are a crafter, maybe you want to grab a craft project and crochet along with me. I'll show you what I'm making and just have a relaxing time. If you don't craft, that's fine. Grab a cup of coffee or put me somewhere where you're working on another project and just listen along. This is going to be more of an audio heavy video than visuals. So hopefully it's a relaxing time and we can share some stories and just some topics that are personal and that you can relate to. So let's get into it. Oh, I want to show you what I'm crocheting right now. I am making an ally fent. At the end of this video, I'll try to flash an image of what this looks like finished. Right now, I just have the rear end. It's going to have a tail, and it's got the transgender flag colors, and then I have the blanket that is going right here. So it's going to have a rainbow blanket with the black and brown stripes around it, and lots of glitter and bling. I like making African flower stuffies. They're so relaxing because you just work in little tiny pieces, and it's kind of mindless since the pattern's repetitive, and that's something that I really like to use to decompress and reconnect with myself after a long and busy week. So let me talk about work. I have been a case manager for 5 years and in the field of mental health and substance abuse counseling since 2004. So it's going on 2 decades of human services, and I really love what I do. But some places along the way, my professional life has been really challenging. And one area actually was crossing over with my personal life. I came out as a lesbian at the age of 33. It was a journey that I had to make with myself and just through relationships and finding out, about who I was. But kind of at that age where I just felt like I had exhausted the ability to pretend to myself and others that I was straight, it became obvious to me quickly that keeping that matter a secret at work was not going to fly, because I'm a very open and honest person. I don't say what I think in ways that hurt others, but things just slip out when it comes to information. So for example, if I'm in a group of people and we're all talking about our weekend, I'll tell people what I'm doing with my weekend, and maybe I'm going with my fiance to Pride, or I will mention her pronouns, and I'm not great at faking information or trying to cover over information consistently. It takes a lot of mental effort and it causes a lot of stress. But when I was out and was dating another woman, I found myself becoming more and more stressed and uncomfortable at work. At that time, I was working in a state penitentiary prison in a substance abuse program, and I was a supervisor. And I had a number of people on, who worked as team members under me that I supervised, and we were all kind of in the same area. We didn't really have cubicles. We just had this little office area spread out. So when our clients were back in their dormitory area and we were working on paperwork, people would sit, they'd turn around in the little swivel chairs, and it would become like the meeting after the meeting, and everybody was just chit-chatting, and they would talk about their weekend and about what was going on with their favorite sporting team. And of course, I was not in any way secretive about the fact that I don't enjoy sports. I'm a fan of football fans when I am driving for Uber, but other than that, I don't really understand the sport very well. But the other thing people would talk about is their families and their activities. So I found that I couldn't talk about my weekend activities without mentioning my fiance, that because we spent every weekend together and it was really lovely. At that time we were just getting to know each other. We're now married. But I also found that when they were talking about their weekend activities, people shared information that really just kind of made me feel uncomfortable. And when I say uncomfortable, I don't mean that I was offended, in the way that somebody would say offended. But here's an example. A coworker shared that they had gone to church because they were religious, and they shared that at their church they had some sort of I'm trying to remember exactly what it was, because it wasn't a LGBTQ friendly event, but I think that they had a couple of probably a gay couple that had visited, and they had encountered somebody who was gay for maybe the first time, or as a rare experience. And they started commenting about that couple in ways that made it very obvious that they had never met a gay person in their life, and were making generalizations, sweeping generalizations based on a brief encounter with somebody who was different from them. And so I think the takeaway from that situation is that all gay men wear bow ties. Oh, my cat's Zoom bombing me. They were also making generalizations on their appearance and mannerisms that I did find a little uncomfortable, because it was basically stigmatizing these people as, and their masculinity, femininity as being something repulsive to that person. I am sitting here, meanwhile, with my chair not swiveled around, trying to focus on crafting a good supervision plan for this person who is gay bashing behind my back, not realizing that, hey babe, this is not a good time to randomly bite mommy. What's the matter? What do you need? You don't like mommy talking. That's what it is. So we're having some sensory overload here. I'm going to calm the kitty down. Stop. Just lie down. It's okay. She does this to me every Zoom meeting. I work from home. It's fun. So yeah, I was sitting there with somebody gay bashing right behind me. And the thing is, he wasn't intending to bash anybody. He was just processing new information out loud in a way that was probably not work appropriate. We had a work environment in this particular sector where sometimes people felt it was okay to discuss race, religion, sex, sexual orientation in ways that many people find offensive, and violates kind of good, safe for work standards about what you talk about at work and what you don't. But the spirit of the conversation was not meant to be offensive, which is why you don't talk about these topics at work. Just saying. So because it can create what is called a hostile work environment, which means that somebody who's listening to that conversation may not be the recipient of that conversation, can really be made to feel uncomfortable. And that's how it made me feel. Like I just felt icky. Like, man, if that guy knew some basic details about who I am, they would really view me differently. And they might judge me differently. They might make me feel, they might feel that I am inferior to them, that I am a bad person. And they might even take actions within the workplace that are unfavorable toward me if they knew. I was probably in the best, oddly enough, in the best position to be that person's supervisor and not to have that relationship reversed where they're supervising me. It is even more uncomfortable to feel that the person supervising you is going to discriminate against you through their own implicit and unconscious biases and maybe pass you over for a promotion, or maybe become more nitpicky about your work. As I was listening to this conversation, I was, trying to be an ethical supervisor and writing this guy a supervision plan as, like his monthly supervision. As I'm doing this, I'm like, I really need to be careful making sure that I am fair, and asking myself with every time I'm evaluating this person, would I evaluate the next person just as strictly without them being homophobic toward me and me feeling uncomfortable with them? So I really did my best to try to be fair and honest and, you know, treat everybody equally and regardless of that person's behavior. I didn't take it to HR, but I did eventually bring it to the attention of our, you know, my supervisor, who is our executive director, and just say that this is something that's really not acceptable. It's creating kind of a hostile work environment, but I couldn't tell her because I hadn't already disclosed to her that I was a lesbian. And at that point in my life, I didn't feel comfortable sharing that information. So it really put me in kind of a double bind, where I couldn't come out and say, hey, this person is creating a hostile work environment for me. I feel uncomfortable. I don't like to be treated this way. I need this conversation to stop so that I can exercise my right as an employee to feel comfortable in my workplace, to be who I am, and just do my job without feeling that I'm going to be discriminated against or am just caused undue stress because somebody doesn't like who I am as, you know, a protected factor, which is your sexual orientation. So I did bring it up to her and just said in general, this is potentially creating a hostile work environment. We need to not be having conversations about people's sexual orientation or race, because racism also came up. You know, some racist remarks that were equally meant in a harmless spirit, but not equally unacceptable, came up. And the long and short of it was they weren't really addressed because the people I spoke with felt that I was overreacting and that I was the problem. So I did not remain at that job. I ended up quitting and going into business for myself, and that was kind of part of my work journey, but not fully related to that. It just was not the kind of work environment that I chose to continue being in, and I eventually found another job. The next step in my journey was coming out to people who were close to me, and eventually, when I did interview for another job, I decided I am going to be out at work. Let me figure out how I can do this without being inappropriate and maybe talking excessively about my sexual orientation, but letting people know from the get-go who I am. And I want to share that part of my journey with you guys, because coming out before I entered a workplace or some kind of environment, I found to be so much easier than simply coming out to people I already worked with whom I knew to be homophobic. And I found that when all people knew right off the bat who I was, it wasn't such a big deal, and I did not experience people's homophobia even if it was there. That made my life a heck of a lot easier, and frankly, I don't really care what their opinions are about me as long as they keep them to themselves and it doesn't affect our relationship. So coming out at work, for the first time for me as a 30-something-year-old person, was very stressful. And I actually kind of went on YouTube to see if I could hear other people's experiences. I went to a couple PFLAG meetings, which PFLAG is Parents and Friends of Lesbians and Gays. It's a support group for LGBT plus folks and their relatives and supporters. Excellent resource. And just kind of process through what it's going to mean. In my head, I kind of saw coming out as something very awkward. Think Ellen at the airport. If those of you who are in my generation may be familiar with Ellen DeGeneres and the Ellen Show, and she was kind of a pioneer in coming out on live TV, where her character met this person and was very attracted to her and had to figure out how to navigate her own identity and the people closest to her. And finally, she almost lost this person and pursues her at the airport and tracks her down and says, I have something really important to tell you. And she gets right up next to the airport counter and happens to be leaning right into the loudspeaker microphone as she announces, "I'm gay." And of course, everybody around can hear her and laughs. But to me, coming out felt like that. It's like, I need to like lean up to a loudspeaker microphone and announce, "I'm gay." Why would I want to do that? Except for to have people know me for who I am. And it turned out that coming out at work was not like that at all. I didn't have to, cough a rainbow or tell people intimate details about my life that aren't appropriate to share at work. Coming out the first time simply meant that when I went to an interview for a mental health facility, during the interview, which is illegal for people to ask about your gender identity, sexual orientation, or whether or not you're pregnant, etc., I did happen to mention that I have a fiance and that I dropped pronoun, that my fiance goes by she. I didn't say my fiance goes by she or her. I just happened to say something about my fiance and she, blah, blah, blah. So right there, that was kind of a soft way of letting people know that I'm a woman with a female, the female partner. And it is illegal for people in an interview to discriminate against you in hiring based on your sexual orientation or gender identity. But I wanted to put it out there right away so that if somebody did choose to discriminate against me, which I wasn't going to pursue a lawsuit against them because I don't have time and energy for that, but I wanted to make sure that I don't work there. Because if I am going to be discriminated against by homophobes and they're going to make my life miserable, I don't even want to start that job, let alone finish it. So I was out in the interview, I got the job. First week on the job, I realized that was really easy. So within a day or two, I'm on a unit and chit-chatting with the nurses during a break, and we were talking about what we were doing over the weekend. So I said, "Oh yeah, my fiance and I are going to the beach. She really loves the beach. We're gonna go get some funnel cakes." And they're like, "Oh, okay," because it kind of like I mentioned before, like if somebody tells you they're gonna eat canned peas for dinner, even if they don't tell you they think that's a terrible idea, you're gonna know by their tone of voice right away how they feel about eating canned peas for dinner. And it was the same as who you're dating. If I can tell right away if somebody's homophobic, because if I tell them that, my girl and I are going to the beach and, or my wife now, it's a lot easier. If my wife and I are going to go to the beach this weekend, it's either, okay, change the subject, or, all right, girl, you go. You'll get that reaction from people when you kind of soft come out to them. The other way that I was out at work was sometimes I would wear earrings that had like a little rainbow on them. I have ones that I've made myself that I painted that have a little, they're cute and they're very obviously rainbow, which is LGBT symbol. Or have it pinned to my bag, or I'll bring like a wallet or something. Like I make these and sell them on my Etsy store. And it's like a little cell phone wallet. I have little keychain wallets that have a rainbow on them. I do pride keychains, bandanas, accessories, where you can kind of showcase your pride with something that's artistic and fun. There's also, you can buy cheap stuff on, Temu or Amazon that just has a rainbow. And I would usually wear something like that at least once a week, just if I was running into somebody new. To let them know if they are LGBT that I'm an ally, and otherwise just to kind of soft put it out there, just in case you can't tell by the buzz cut that I'm not into dudes. I saw overnight a change in how people treated me. Previously, I felt like I was constantly fighting this uphill battle to not be perceived as somebody who probably has a husband or a male partner, to not be perceived as somebody who would even remotely be interested if a guy flirts with me, even in a kind of slightly safe for work manner. That just ooh, it sends shivers down my spine. Imagine if somebody who is of a gender that you don't prefer starts making some sexual comments to you. How does that make you feel? If they assume that you want them coming on to you, that you probably like them coming on to you, and that they still got it if you smile and nod and try to be professional, it's uncomfortable, and I experience so much less of that just by presenting myself differently. The homophobic comments all but dried up. Every once in a while, somebody who didn't notice the rainbow would make some unfortunate remark, and if they did, I found ways to set them straight. And I'd be like, you know, I don't bat for that team. But I found that I didn't have to share intimate details about my life to be out, and in a way that was professional and respectful, and just simply letting people know a basic part of who I am. There are parts of ourselves that we share with the general public, and those can be our pronouns, what state we're from, what food we happen to like if we're going out for food, whether or not we have a partner or a family or kids. You know, those are slightly more private details, but they're ones that people share with each other on a daily basis. And by being out, I found that I could connect with others in a way that felt affirming and comfortable without having to hide those basic details about me and feel that I, as a human being, was not being seen. But it had one other effect that I want to share with you guys, and this is really important because it was something that stayed with me for the remainder of my career till today. So during that same job where I made a point of being out and, you know, wore my hair the way I wanted to and dressed the way I wanted to, I was rotating units and sometimes worked with teens and kids who were in a mental health crisis, and actually an inordinate number of them were LGBT. You know, kids who were transgender or who were just figuring out that they're gay or lesbian or bisexual, and really just sort of kind of going through a personal crisis over that, about how to rumble with that themselves, deal with internalized stigma, and maybe deal with changing relationships with family members or friends, or bullying that landed them in a hospital because they were undergoing so much stress. And I worked with these kids, and I didn't go announcing any private details to my clients, as it's not something that you do in my profession. But I was walking down the hall taking them to an activity one day, and I heard a group of them whispering. I mean, children and teens have no idea how loud they are. And they can completely just out themselves on whatever mischief they're up to, and you just need to keep an ear open. So I'm listening to the little chit chat behind me, and I hear this group of them whispering, "You do it. No, you talk to her. I don't want to. I'm scared." I'm like, oh God, what's going on? So this one 12 or 13-year-old girl shuffles up to me, and you know that somebody is scared to ask you a question when their gait changes, and I hear with the feet, and she's very tense, and she has her arms down by her side, and she was so tense. She had this big smile, and it was almost like her hair was matted down because she was so uptight. And I said, "Hey, what's up?" And she says, "What's your sexuality?" Like, just in that voice. And I kind of had this like moment of anxiety. Like, what do I do? Do I say that's none of your business because that's private information, or do I simply tell her? And so I just kind of went with it like Ellen at the airport. I said, "I'm gay." I didn't actually say it in that tone of voice, but I just said, "Yeah, I'm gay. I'm a woman who's engaged to another woman." And, it was pretty obvious because I had a gorgeous engagement ring that she had given me. So she I hear this sharp intake of breath, and then she shuffles back and to the other girls. And then I hear the whispering, And I hear one person go, they have people like us who work here. And it was this moment of relief where they all started kind of, like they all could kind of breathe and were relaxed. And then they all kind of wanted to sit with me, you know, those who weren't playing basketball at the gym, and just talk about their lives and their relationships and the boys they liked and the girls they liked and what was going on with them at school and how people treated them. And it was cathartic because, well, I was there as a role of, you know, helping people through a mental health crisis. And not only did they feel safe because they were in a hospital, but they felt safe because they could see that I was not going to look on them with the shame that they had internalized already from being discriminated against or feeling that who they were was not acceptable. And having that representation it turned out to be incredibly important. The other thing I realized just hearing that and experiencing that with this group of kids was that representation in all levels of society is important. And what happens for people who are what I want to call invisible minorities, where you're in a minority that's not related to some very visible outward feature like the color of your skin or your ethnic origin, but maybe something that you can choose to disclose or not disclose, like your sexual orientation or even your gender identity. When people like us are marginalized and have to go into hiding, that means that people in society don't experience who we are as friends, family members, neighbors, professionals, or the person who's checking you out in the grocery store. And don't get to realize that we're a part of your society and are just as normal as you are and have the same hopes and dreams and interests and hobbies and are crocheting on the weekends like you are. It means that homophobia and transphobia and those discriminations can change the narrative and control the narrative to describe that minority as something that doesn't necessarily jive with reality, that stereotypes predominate, and instead of true relationships. I mentioned before that my coworkers were talking about, we're gay bashing in my workplace, and we're talking about this gay couple that they had met, who was clearly the first gay couple they'd ever met, as if they were the only representation of LGBT folks. And even that kind of, I want to say, not harmless, but not ill-willed stereotyping, which is a result of not having exposure to a wide variety of people in said minority, can be damaging because it means that you paint everybody with the same brush and you can other them and say, they're like this. They are, you know, pick a list of adjectives, and those adjectives can be pejorative or not necessarily flattering, or they may just not describe the person that's right in front of you, and lack appreciation for the diversity of who we are as humans. And it leads people to feel invisible, to feel not seen, and to feel that they can't be their true, complex, multicolored selves, for lack of a better descriptor. I'm not editing this video because I want my viewers to see who I am and kind of have this vulnerable, raw, uncut kind of view of me in some of these longer videos. So I appreciate you staying on if you have listened this far and just being able to, you know, to appreciate the stories that I'm sharing and hopefully relate to them. So if you are somebody who's out at work or maybe considering being out at work, I would love to hear your thoughts and stories in regard to that. Please feel free to leave a comment below. Be kind in those comments to yourselves, others, and ultimately to yourself, and to me. But tell me what's the importance of representation to you, for your sexual orientation, your gender identity, or whatever factor makes you uniquely you? What does representation mean to you, and how does it affect you if you don't experience that representation in your daily life? What do you want to do moving forward to help us as a society have better representation? I'm really looking forward to hearing your comments, so please take a moment to comment. And if you liked this video and this is something that you would like to see more of, please hit the like button, because that causes YouTube to push my content to people like yourself that enjoy this video, and also helps the algorithm to know what you enjoy so that you'll see more of it on your suggested videos. If you want to see more of my content, please consider hitting that subscribe button. That will support my channel and help you to be made aware the next time I post a video. I'm just getting started, so you will see more videos by me on hopefully topics related to being out at work, and also to being a better professional in the human services. I'm planning on doing a series on time management for case managers. So if you are a case manager, please subscribe to my channel. You're going to see lots of content that is geared toward the pain points in your professional life. And if you are a professional of the LGBTQIA persuasion, please definitely subscribe so that we can stay in touch. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye-bye.